Hi, kids. Welcome back to our virtual classroom. I'm happy to be with you here today at this time and in this place. And today we're going to talk about security. And if you look up what the definition of security is, it's safety and freedom from fear or anxiety. And I was curious to look up what images or pictures were associated with security. And I found many images similar to this. Hold that up right. It's a shield surrounding a lock. And we can picture security like this. It's a safe space guarded by the shield and that remains unchanged and untouched or locked in place. And we have within us such a place. This place is a part of us that is so essential to who we are that at times we don't even notice or understand it. Some people call this our spirit or our soul. It is the core part of us that makes us who we are, and it cannot be tampered with or changed by our outer experience in the world. The essence of who you are is naturally kind, helpful, loving, caring, and so much more that is good. And this place, this part of you, is something that you recognize is there in your best moments. When you laugh with a friend, when you help a stranger, when you love those who are your parents and family, and when you perform well in school or sports and your talents shine. It is reassuring to know that this place exists in each one of us, in our friends, our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors, your grandparents, everyone you can imagine. And now that we've talked a little bit about security, let's say our affirmation related to security in today's lesson. It is, my true self is deathless and changeless. I am secure in unconditional love, light, and joy. Let's say it again together. My true self is deathless and changeless. I am secure in love, light, and joy. Let's say it one more time together and really embrace the idea of security that's in this affirmation. My true self is deathless and changeless. I am secure in unconditional love, light, and joy. Security comes from knowing who and what we really are. And we're going to read a story about a boy who had a deep understanding of who he was, and it guided him to feel secure no matter what he faced in life. The title of the story is Daniel Faces the Lions. Let's read it, and you can follow along at home if you have a copy. Daniel Faces the Lions. Daniel was born the son of a nobleman in Jerusalem. He had a comfortable life with his family, and he enjoyed his schoolwork and running races with his friends. Daniel was smart and strong and well loved by his friends and family. He and his family were Jewish. They believed in one creator of the universe, and they believed in making daily offerings and prayers. When it was warm, his family would go out on the flat roof of their home and say their prayers together. It was easy to feel safe and secure during those times. But life changed for Daniel when he was a young man. An invading army from the Babylonian Empire came into his city and took many young men captive. Daniel was taken away with many others to serve the king in the mighty city of Babylon. He would never return to his home. This was a difficult and painful time for Daniel. His family was not there to comfort him. He was no longer the person he had been. His clothes were different. The food he ate and the bed he slept in were different. He had to learn a new language, and they even changed his name to Belteshazzar. But when Daniel prayed and looked within to find comfort, he found that he was the same inside. He still felt God's loving presence, and he knew his true self would always be the same. Daniel was trained in the ways of the court, and the king was very impressed with Daniel's intelligence and calm strength. Daniel seemed to be able to do everything well. One day, there was a lot of trouble in the court because the king had a strange dream that made no sense. The king was so angry and frustrated that none of his wise counselors could help, and he threatened to kill them all. Then someone thought to ask Daniel. After considering the problem and praying about it, Daniel was able to explain the dream to the king. After that, Daniel was given even more important jobs and eventually was in charge of most of the city. This really upset the old counselors. Daniel was a young outsider, and now he was the king's favorite. But what could be done? If they tried to get rid of him or kill him, the king would never forgive them. Then one of the counselors had an idea. What if the king were forced to get rid of Daniel because it was the law? In Babylon, people prayed to a variety of gods and even treated the king like a god sometimes. The king knew that Daniel came from a place where they prayed to one God, and he knew Daniel prayed 3 times a day without fail. But that was all right with the king because Daniel had helped him many times. The scheming governors and counselors wrote a new law and brought it before the king. The law said it was wrong for the people of Babylon to pray or to ask favors from anyone but the true king of Babylon. Anyone who violated the law would be thrown to the hungry lions that were kept in a cave under the palace. The king signed it, never thinking about Daniel. Daniel heard about the new law, and he thought about obeying the king. But he knew in his heart that to stop saying his daily prayers would be wrong. As he knelt on the floor of his home, just as he had done as a young child, the king's men came in and gleefully caught him defying the law. The king was distraught when Daniel was brought before him. He cried out with fury, "I have been tricked." But if the king did not follow through with the punishment, his people would think him weak and foolish. He had to do it. He had to put Daniel in the lion's den. He looked into Daniel's eyes and said, "Your God will save you, Daniel. Do not fear." When Daniel stood at the edge of the pit, he could smell the lions below him and hear their angry growls. He knew his body might be torn to pieces and he would die. But in his soul, he felt peaceful and still. He knew his true self would never die and would always be the same. The love and light he experienced had nothing to do with the conditions of the world. And he smiled kindly at the king's reassurance. Daniel fell to the ground, and the lions all faced him with hungry eyes. But a bright light filled the den, and Daniel felt no fear. Was that an angel in the light? The lions relaxed and regarded Daniel with eyes of peace and calmness. Daniel felt secure, and he looked at the lions with compassion. They were captives here as well. The king spent a long and sleepless night wondering what was happening to Daniel, and he rose at dawn to go to the lion's den. When the king opened the sealed den, he was overjoyed to find Daniel safe. He immediately made a new decree honoring the God that Daniel had worshipped. Daniel remained in the king's service for the rest of his years. How does that story make you feel? Did I mention that we miss you? I don't think I did. Now's the time that we would pose some questions and get your thoughts to understand more about the story. I want to ask you if you feel the same inside, even when things outside change. Now, this is something that you can think about and pay attention to this week or any time. And I really liked one of the other questions that I read. When Daniel was taken from his home, how did he respond? And this is kind of the main message that I want to leave you with. This is in the story. It says, when Daniel prayed and looked within to find comfort, he found that he was the same inside. He still felt God's loving presence, and he knew his true self would always be the same. It's a lot to take in, and I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you have a chance to talk with someone and talk about the story, ask some questions, get some answers, maybe answer some questions that other people have. I'm just gonna say a prayer for you and move on to the next thing. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. Namaste.